All right, welcome to Private Conversations with Pastor Terry. I'm joined by Pastor Terry Horn, and today we're going to be talking about, among other things, why you might be praying for the wrong thing. And we've been talking about the parable of the sower and the seed, and it's been really amazing. It's been so rich, and you've continued to teach on it. It's one of those parables that you could probably teach on for like a year, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so there's a lot there. So one of the things that really stuck out to me this last Sunday at church, at Preparing the Way, was when you talked about how weakness is really the gateway to God's power, which, if you're anything like me, like, that's not exactly what I wanted to hear.
Nobody wants to hear that.
We just want to go straight to power. But tell us a little bit about that. Like, why, obviously from the Word, why is that such a key?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We pray for a lot of things and thinking that we're going to get to that place very quickly and very easily, but when you actually pray for it and you study it out in the Word, you find out there's a process to get there.
Yeah.
And you pray for the love of God, and it says, whom the Lord loves, he disciplines. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get a lot of discipline. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that's what produces love in the end.
Yeah.
So it's not always easy to get to that place that you want, that place of power. And even like Jesus in the wilderness, he went through 40 days of fasting and testing, and a lot of trials and tribulations, difficulties. Mm-hmm. And it says in Luke, it says he came out in the power of the Spirit. Yeah. So you see, it wasn't easy to get the power of the Spirit. He had to go through a lot in the wilderness. And so for us, if Jesus had to go through that, how much more do we?
Yeah.
So when people are saying, man, I really want the power of God, yeah, we all want that. But it's not always just snap your fingers or pray for it and everything, all of a sudden the power of God comes on you. There is a process.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we fail to realize the process. And like Israel going to the promised land, there was a promised land, and God gave it to them, but they had to fight. Mm-hmm. They had to fight for years to get that.
Yeah.
So even though it was a promise, and even though God gave it to them, it wasn't automatic.
Yeah.
And so they had to go through that process and the testing, the trials, and all of that, and to develop their character. Same thing with us, Mm-hmm. So when we get into the parable of the sower and the seed, I really looked at it a little deeper this time than I have in years past. And when I saw the thorns, something registered in me about the thorn in the flesh mm-hmm. that Paul had, and then also about the thorns in the promised land, mm-hmm. and not to get connected to the Canaanite nations, and you'd be overwhelmed by their gods, and you'd give in to their gods and marry with those people and worship their gods. Mm-hmm. So I started seeing the thorns also as a demonic realm, and then Paul said he had a messenger of Satan, which was a demon.
Right.
But he said
that's in
I forget where it was.
Corinthians 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
And 2 Corinthians 7, I think. And so he said, and then he goes on and says, I asked the Lord to deliver me from it 3 times. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted deliverance, just like all of us. We don't want a demon, bugging us, and or we don't want a lot of these problems. So we pray, we go for deliverance, and that's a normal process, I think.
Yeah.
So Paul, he didn't want that.
Yeah.
And so who wants these things disturbing you and tormenting you? And in fact, he said it tormented him.
Wow.
And so he asked 3 times to be delivered. And then God said, my grace is sufficient and power is perfected in weakness.
Yeah.
So then he goes in and he says that I'm content with persecutions, afflictions, difficulties. He lists, I forget what it was, several things out that he was able to be content with, because he knew that was going to develop the power of God in him through that weakness.
Yeah, even beatings and imprisonments, I think he says.
Yeah.
And so it's like...
Hard to be content with that.
Yeah. So how much more should we be content just with our, daily little minuscule struggles?
Can't find a parking place and we think we're persecuted, Right. Or it rains when we go to church, during the persecution,
Yeah.
So we're a little. I think sometimes we're a little soft when it comes to enduring, especially considering what people in other countries go through. And here we have it pretty easy in general.
Yeah.
And I don't think that in many cases that we have built up that perseverance and discipline characteristic in us that many other countries have.
Yeah.
When you hear stories like Dmitri Duduman and what he went through. And electrocuted 2 or 3 times, almost died, and God allowed it. He told him he was going to go through it again, and it was part of the process. And you go, wow, that's...
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times, and that's why we kind of fall short sometimes of receiving what we want from God, because we're not willing to endure the hard times and go through it.
Well, I think you said something really key that it's about producing character in us.
Yeah.
And in Matthew 7, Jesus says, many are going to come to me on that day and say, Lord, Lord, did we not cast out demons in your name? We prophesied in your name. We did all these things. He says, depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.
I never knew you.
I never knew you.
Yeah.
So it is about our character. And I remember one time after I had the most amazing experience I've ever had with the Lord to this day when I was younger. And I honestly felt kind of guilty the next day because I was like, I'm not worthy, Lord. Like it was an amazing experience. And the Lord spoke to me so clearly. He said, David, I love you more than what you can do for me. And so really the Lord is more concerned with our salvation and just us getting to heaven than all the list of, our calling, all the things that we can, our gifts. And we obsess over all that, but we don't obsess over our character a lot of times.
Yeah, I think we confuse sometimes salvation, eternal life with gifts and power and all that stuff. And that's great and that's good and we want that. But you can have that and still miss God. You can still miss God, because he said that we cast out demons and prophesied.
Well, the church in Corinthians, Paul said, you lack in no spiritual gift, but yet they were suing each other. There was sexual immorality in the church. There was like all kinds. There was idolatry, and yet they had the gifts. But he said, Paul said, basically, some of you aren't going to heaven.
You're going to miss it.
Yeah,
and that's why this parable is important because, like I think we said the last time, that only one of the soils produced fruit.
Yeah.
And then when Jesus came to the fig tree, he's looking for fruit, and he said, cut it down. So the same thing with us. He's looking for fruit.
Yeah.
And just because you have a gift, that doesn't necessarily mean you're producing fruit,
Yeah.
And then that's another thing. What is the fruit? So maybe we'll get into that. But anyway, the persecutions, all of that's part of the process of getting to the good soil and getting the land cleared. And that's the thing I wanted to maybe mention today, is that you have to look at the parable of the sower and the seed the same as Israel going into the promised land. You have to look at it the same way.
Yeah.
Because those enemies are already in the soil of your heart. It's already there.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be there. It's not like you're going to have the pure heart right away. That's not the way this works.
Yeah.
You go through that process of clearing the land and getting the soil where it will produce the fruit by the seed that's sown. So I think that's what we were talking about when we're talking about Paul. He said, I'm content with these things. And so that means he learned how to persevere and endure it and get through it, And then I think later on God delivered him from all of it, because he said that before he died. I think actually God probably delivered him from that spirit.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you said on Sunday that when we pray for God's power, we're essentially asking for weakness and difficulty, right? And then what would you say to practically help a believer who's in the middle of a painful season not to confuse God's allowance of suffering with God's absence? I think that's something where people really get confused sometimes.
I don't think, as long as we're serving the Lord, God doesn't leave. I'll never leave you or forsake you.
Yeah.
And then I was teaching on David last Wednesday in Shimei. And Shimei came along and was cursing David, calling him all kinds of names and saying, you're the reason Saul died, and you're a murderer, and you're this, and you're that. And so it was a lot of personal attacks and persecution. And David even, I think at that point in his life, was questioning whether God was with him or not. And he said, well, I think one of his main men wanted to kill Shimei. He said, no, maybe the Lord has allowed him to do this. And so there was a thorn, there was a persecution, that was an affliction, it was a difficulty. And David had a question as to whether God had forsaken him. He said, maybe the Lord had him do this. And maybe the Lord did. I don't know. Obviously, what he did was wrong. It was false. But it was an attack against David. But David didn't. The key thing is, these things are not, they're not meant to stop. They're meant to distract you, you know. And if you can get through it. Yeah. You can get through it if you don't quit. Yeah. You know, you can't lose if you don't quit. That's what I always say. And I think too many people quit when the going gets a little tough. Yeah. And David never quit. Yeah. So even though he felt like maybe the Lord had forsaken him, it kind of seemed that he thought that, he still kept fighting. You know, and he didn't let that stop him. And I know in my life, especially in the ministry that we have of deliverance, and I've had a lot of stuff over the years, many things. And then sometimes you question, well, am I doing the right thing? Am I really is he with me or not? But what I did, I just always went through it and endured it and never quit. So I think that's the thing is if God's allowing it, it's for a reason. And so you fight, you know. David fought, he got the kingdom back. Yeah. You know, he didn't quit. So and then, you know, the other thing with David, because of his sin with Bathsheba, God had already told him through the prophet that the sword was not going to leave his house. Yeah. So in his case, he had something he had to endure, and it was going to be there till he died. Yeah. You know, because of what he did. But that didn't mean God had forsaken him. Right. It just meant that it was going to be pretty difficult. Yeah. Because of what he did. Yeah. Well, it's like going back to we reap what we sow. Yeah. You know? I mean, that's a law. Yeah. That's a law, and you can't unless God wants to override, which God can do. He can override any law, physical law, spiritual law. But sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. You know, healing and deliverance is overriding certain laws. You know, parting the Red Sea, that was a law that he had to override. Yeah, because Jesus died to redeem us from the curse of the law. From the curse of the law. So God can override those things. Yeah. And sometimes he does. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes you have to go through all this stuff, you know. Yeah. And you look at Jesus, you know, look what he had to go through. I mean, he had to go through a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you have to, it's important to know that you've heard God, especially in your calling, you know, and in your ministry. If you're called to a ministry or something, you got to know it. And like David knew he was called to be king. And God never told him he wasn't. Yeah. And even though he messed up, he still kept him there. Yeah. And so David persevered. Paul the same way, you know. Yeah. And Paul was basically a murderer. Yeah. And so he had more difficulties probably than anybody in the New Testament. He went through all kinds of trouble, and he was the greatest apostle, you know, New Testament apostle that there was. Yeah. And look what he went through. Yeah. Well, I think Paul said through many trials and tribulations, you inherit the kingdom of God, right? Yeah, so it's not easy. The Lord hasn't left us. It's part of the process. Just because you're going through the hard time, and just because things don't appear to be going the right way, doesn't mean that necessarily that you've done something wrong or that God's upset with you. You know, I think it's quite contrary. Is that when you are really a threat to the kingdom of darkness, then you are going to be a target. And so you just have to get used to it. Yeah. You have to get used to it. Yeah. And then you see in a lot of the countries like Nigeria and some of the Muslim countries, Christians being killed, beheaded. Yeah. That doesn't mean God's against them. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And you see it in the Bible. Good people. In fact, Uriah the Hittite, he was a good man. Right. And David killed him. Yeah. That wasn't God, you know. Yeah. And sometimes we suffer bad things, but it doesn't mean God's against you and God's not for you. And that's the thing I've learned is that God's for me, you know. Yeah. And if I've sinned, then I have to find out what I do and repent and try to make it right and move on. Yeah. You know, don't quit. Yeah. Amen. Amen.
You said something really interesting, and my wife and I actually were talking about this week, even before you preached it. So I thought it was really interesting. The message spoke to both of us. And by the way, if you haven't watched the message from Sunday, you can go back. It's under the live feed on YouTube. Amazing. But you described worry as the enemy's counterfeit of faith,
Yeah.
which I'd never heard it put that way before. But how would you suggest that as a believer, as a disciple, we can shift from the hearing and seeing that produces fear? Because, the Word says hearing produces faith, right? But a lot of times we hear and we see, and that produces fear instead of the hearing that produces faith. So when we're in the middle of that stressful situation, like we're going through right now, my wife and I were talking about how if you're not careful, you can actually pray from a place of fear.
Absolutely.
And not pray from faith, and then God doesn't respond.
Absolutely.
And it's like, so how can we avoid that and really make sure that we're actually functioning from a place of faith?
Well, I think, if you make a decision based on fear, you get a fear-based result. Mm-hmm. And it's not good.
So true.
And if you pray, based on fear, sometimes, you can get a bad result too. So we have to understand, first of all, if it's fear, it's not from the Lord.
Yeah.
It's just not. He said God didn't give you a spirit of fear. Mm-hmm. And fear is a spirit too. And I mean, sometimes we can have fear like you're afraid of a snake. That doesn't mean you got a demon of fear. It means you're smart,
Yeah.
But there is a spirit of fear where it's inordinate, it's abnormal. Like people are just I'm afraid to get on the highway because I'm going to get killed. To me, that's inordinate. Although you could on I-30. So the cure for fear is prayer.
Yeah.
I mean, the cure for fear is prayer. And every time I get ready to leave the office here, I pray over my car. I pray over the driving home, because something can happen, But, fear and worry, they produce bad fruit. Mm-hmm. It produces bad fruit, Mm-hmm. And fear and worry are kind of the opposite of faith, And mm-hmm. So, what you fear can come upon you, mm-hmm. Very, very easily, And fear causes you to do things.
Yeah.
Faith is supposed to cause you to do things, but the right thing. And then fear causes you to do things, but many times it's the opposite of what you're supposed to do. And it's like Israel going into the promised land, they were afraid of the giants, and it kept them out of the promised land. Yeah. And God said, I'm going to be with you. Mm-hmm. So I think learning to face the fear, and I think we grow up with fear, and we all have to learn how to face the fear. And I've told this story many times. I was always afraid to speak in public. Mm-hmm. And I was devastated by that and paralyzed by it. Mm-hmm. And there was only one way for me to overcome that, and was God had to make me go through it and do it. Mm-hmm. I had to get up and speak when I was working at Texas Instruments. I had to get up and speak in front of people. There was no immediate deliverance for me. Yeah. It was a process, So I think every time fear comes, you got to say, wait a minute, this is not the Lord. Yeah. And God can keep you from going down a bad direction by saying, hey, this is not the right way. Or you can get that sense in your spirit, mm-hmm. This doesn't feel right. Yeah. And then you can maybe go a different direction. But there are times when there's a fear factor involved, and you have to just go through it, and you pray, mm-hmm. and you do it.
Fear, as you're talking, fear is so interesting if you think about it. Like, why are we afraid to begin with? Yeah. What really makes us afraid in our core? Because we're afraid of so many things. I mean, we're afraid of being rejected. We're afraid of being a failure. But why are we, at our core, why do you think we're even afraid at all?
Yeah, well, you kind of thinking about, you go back to the garden when Adam and Eve, ate, and then they were naked, and God says, well, where are you? And he says, why'd you do this? He says, I was afraid, and I hid myself because I was naked, He said, who told you were naked, Mm-hmm. So right away that made them fearful. And so what you hear, what you see, mm-hmm. programs you into to fear. And I think, Jesus never feared anything.
Yeah.
And the disciples, they were full of fear, but later on they didn't fear even unto death.
Right.
And so I think it's a process that you go through of overcoming fear here, fear there, and pretty soon you say, wait a minute, God's gotten me this far. I'm still alive. And I think about in my life, everything that came my way, all the bad things, I'm still here. We overcame it.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. I mean, we had a house burn in 2019, and you could say, well, did God burn your house? I don't think so, because we ended up making more money than we had before, and I get a new house too.
Yeah.
So it was a bad thing. It was a trial. It was a difficulty, but didn't stop us and didn't make us say, well, God's against us just because the house burned,
Yeah.
So, it's just, and I think the more you overcome those things, the more you realize, hey, it's just part of the process. God's with me, and sometimes everything's going to go good. Sometimes it's not going to go good, and you have to always look at it like this. I don't get too excited when everything's going good,
Right.
because I know something bad can happen, and I don't get too down when everything's going bad, because that can change overnight.
Yeah.
Things can change overnight.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know owning a business and the life of an entrepreneur, I would have, good hours and bad hours.
Yeah.
I mean,
minutes.
I could be in 3 or 4 different places in one day, and it's like,
you can't.
it's just the way it is. You have to.
You got to live above your emotions.
Yeah.
You got to live above the emotions, and because the emotions change, feelings change, circumstances, and the other thing is, you got to realize we don't have much control over these things. Some of these things are going to happen; they're just going to happen, and we can't control it. And so we have to learn how to go with the flow.
That's something that my wife and I were talking about in our situation is, I started to realize there's really only so much we can control here.
Yeah.
And so I would love to talk about that, because our culture now, I wonder if it's rooted a little bit in New Age. There's all this positivity, and I know in the entrepreneurial realm where I kind of hang out and have a lot of friends, there's this real obsession over just like, you got to succeed, you got to win, you always got to be kind of on top, and going for your goals, and all that. And it's great, and the Word talks about using wisdom and planning and all the things.
Yeah.
But if we're not careful, we can actually live in a place of discontentment in our negative circumstances. So how would you recommend balancing what the Word says about preparing and making plans, right, and the Lord being with us and giving us success, versus all the things we can't control?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking I'm going to kind of use myself as an example. Going back to when we first started the deliverance ministry, and we were doing all this, and it was a interesting time, to say the least, and a lot of rejection that we went through, because in that time there was hardly anybody around here doing it, and still probably not that many people. So we faced a lot of rejection, and many of the churches just didn't want it, didn't want to deal with it, and so, but I knew that we needed to do this. So we tried to do certain things, and they weren't the Lord. We even tried to start a church one time.
Yeah.
And
I
of course,
remember
you
that.
remember, and your mom and dad were there, and because basically some people wanted it, I went, I don't know if I really want to do it, but I did anyway. And it wasn't the Lord. I finally figured it out. It wasn't the Lord, so I went in and shut it down. I said, this is not the Lord. Go home and get right with your wife. We're shutting this thing down.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's the end.
Yeah.
I really thought that was the end of the ministry and everything. But then it grew.
Interesting.
Then I started going all over the country and having meetings and going into foreign countries and all that. And it's like, I thought it was dead, to be honest. I thought it's over.
Yeah.
But no, it was an Ishmael, and sometimes you create an Ishmael. I think most people in the ministry do an Ishmael, like Abraham did. And so then, but we kept going. And then We went to the next level, and then we started meeting in our barn, our renovated barn. I had this impression that we were supposed to do that. My wife was in agreement. So even though we had the church that really didn't do anything, wasn't really good, didn't stop us from going forward. And it wasn't like God said it's over. So I think when God calls you, his gifts and calling of God are without repentance.
Yeah.
So if you know you're called and you know God's chosen you, that's enough.
Yeah.
And then you keep going. And it's like Isaac. He kept digging the wells. He redug his father's wells, and then he dug a well and he had strife. Well, does that mean you got to quit digging? Or does that mean God doesn't want you to dig? No. And so he had strife, and he left the place of strife. And I think that's a key thing is when there's strife, the Lord's not there. You need to get away from the strife.
Yeah.
So he dug another well, same problem.
Yep.
And he dug the third well, and then it was peace. He said, the Lord has made room for me. So he kept digging the well until he got the well where there was peace.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we did. We kept digging and digging.
Wow.
And I think most of the problem with Christians is that we don't have the perseverance and the discipline to keep digging.
Yeah.
So we kept digging because the Lord just put it in us to do it. And here we are in Oak Cliff,
Right.
which never, I've told people many, many times, I never had an idea of coming in. Yeah, I'm sure you never thought about us being down here. And part of the people that started out with us in Rockwall never imagined that we'd be down here. But that's what happens when you keep digging. Eventually you're going to dig the well in the place that God wants you.
Yeah.
So you just gotta persevere, and you gotta keep on, not give up. And like the thorn in the flesh, we're talking about that with Paul. Paul kept trying to get delivered from. So the point is, you need to try to keep getting delivered. If you got something that you know is not good, you go for deliverance and you do what you can to get delivered.
Yeah.
If God finally says, no, you're going to live with this, then you say, okay. I can endure this. I can get by with this. I can still do what I'm supposed to do, even with this affliction or this problem, because the grace of God will get me over it.
Yeah.
So, but the main thing I think is that you don't quit and you just keep going and going. And I've seen so many Christians quit because something didn't go right, or their relationship blew up in them, or maybe even a divorce or something. That doesn't mean it's over.
Sure. Well, I can even think of a few different ministers who had really powerful healing ministries. I know even Smith Wigglesworth, my goodness, probably the most powerful healing ministry of the 20th century, and he struggled with illness his entire life. And you'd look at that and think, well, where's the Lord in that? Well, who knows? But it's not us to judge, right? But the Lord still moved and he persevered.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's never going to be a perfect situation.
Yeah.
It's just never, And if you wait for that, I think he said, he who regards the wind will not sow.
Yeah.
And he who regards the rain will not reap. You don't know if you sow in the morning you're going to receive, or you sow in the evening, he said. So you just keep sowing. That's the key. Is you can't reap if you don't sow. And all these other things are to prevent you from sowing and make you quit.
Wow.
It keeps you from sowing.
Wow. Well, and I think a lot of times what happens is we get discouraged. Like we'll say, well, I've been sowing, but did you till the ground?
Yeah.
Like, did you prepare your heart to actually bear fruit?
Yeah.
So even though you might be doing things on the outward, there's sort of this shell that looks like you're doing the right things, but you haven't dealt with maybe the stone of pride in your heart, or maybe there's unbelief, or maybe there's rejection. Like, what is that thing? And like you say a lot of times, like, what is the one thing that's holding you back that the Lord is putting his finger on? I can think of times in my life where the Lord has pointed out, you need to work on this thing, right? This is going to get you if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I think the motive. It's your motive too. Why you're doing something. If your motive is wrong, then you're not going to get very good fruit. And then James talks about you ask with the wrong motive because you want to, and you don't receive because you want to spend it on your own self.
Yeah.
Your own pleasures.
Yeah.
And so, the idea about bearing fruit is there's a death to bear fruit. The grain of wheat has to fall on the earth and die. So if you're doing your ministry or whatever you're doing, if you're doing it just for selfish reasons,
Yeah.
and you're not doing it for others, then it usually doesn't produce much fruit.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it?
Right.
Is it, and what I always have tried to do is like, if God says to do it, I'm just going to do it, and whether I get anything out of it or not is not the issue.
Right.
To me, it's not the issue.
Yeah.
And also, I've seen that you can sow over here, but you reap over here.
Yeah.
You typically will reap from a different source than you sow.
That's so interesting.
Many times you sow into some things or some people or some arenas, and you get nothing.
Yeah.
But God will supply it from another place. It's just weird how that works.
Yeah. That's so amazing.
And so then that's the Lord.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so you keep sowing. You sow. You try to sow in good soil. But then as a pastor, the idea for me is to try to prepare the ground for people's hearts, which we do that through repentance and through deliverance and all those things, counseling, so that as that seed goes in, it's going to produce fruit. So the whole idea is producing fruit. First of all, the fruit of the Spirit, that's the main fruit, what comes out of our mouth, and then fruit of disciples reproducing. So we're supposed to reproduce after our own kind, Apples reproduce apples, people reproduce people, dogs reproduce dogs. We should be reproducing disciples if we're really a disciple. And so I think that's important as a believer, that Jesus has come, he's looking for fruit. And if he doesn't find it, it's like the guy with the one talent. He said, what'd you do? There was no increase, no fruit. And he cut him off.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. And the scripture we were talking about in Peter, where it says, by this way, all those different items we talked about last week.
Yeah, I want to get into
This is the way the interest of the kingdom is going to be provided to you.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is really rich. I mean, I love hearing you like really apply the word to your life and just different things that you've been through. It really helps me understand like how I can apply it in my life and look back on different things or even where I'm at right now and just see how to really apply the word. I think sometimes we struggle with that, but like we've been talking about, the whole point is to get the soil of our heart tilled, get it right, so that we can then sow the seed of the word.
Absolutely.
And actually reap a harvest, and then reproduce. Teach others to obey. Teach others, what the Lord has taught us, right? And actually produce fruit in other people.
Yeah, I guess the key thing is, if you look at it in the natural, the soil produces the fruit.
Yeah.
The soil produces the fruit.
So the fruit is really dependent, and even the abundance is dependent upon the quality of the soil.
And it's a weird thing to put a seed in the ground and you go, how in the world does that thing grow? Yeah. But it grows automatically if it's put in the soil. But the biggest problem, I think, with many believers is they never let that word get into the soil of the heart. Because if it gets in there, then it's going to produce action. Yeah. And when that happens, then fruit comes. But if it never gets in here, you never do anything. So you just sit and listen, but it never really gets here. It's just kind of laying around in there. So it never goes deep in the heart, so it never produces fruit. Yeah. Because for it to produce fruit, for the word to produce fruit, you have to obey it. You have to obey it. If you don't do it, and you won't do it if it doesn't get in your heart, and it won't get in your heart if your heart's messed up and you don't get the ground clear.
Amazing, amazing. Well, join us next time. We're going to get into 2 Peter 1 and learn how we can receive a welcome entry into the kingdom. So thank you for joining us for Private Conversations with Pastor Terry. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.